All right, so now we're going to be talking about posting data. Now, everything is inside the documentation. It's right here inside the dashboard. Right here, you have Go to Docs. So if I click on this, it's going to open the documentation. And right here, you need to go to Reference. And then inside Reference, you can have all the languages. So we are going to be using JavaScript. So if we open JavaScript, you're going to have all the information. Right now, we are working with databases. So you can go to Overview, and it's going to give you the documentation for databases. So everything is just right here. We don't have a lot of documentation. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to close this, and we're going to discuss. We're going to be adding some records inside here. Okay, so for example, I'm going to go to the Firebase.js, and in the MySQL world, we have tables to store all your data. In Mongo, you have collections. We're going to be talking about Mongo. We're going to be using Mongo a lot. And in Firebase, you have references. So I got to tell you, Firebase works a little bit different than the other ones. It's a little bit weird. You're going to see why. So first, we have the database method, which is this one, Firebase, and then database. And, instead of every time that we need to do a request, we need to make a request and store something. We need to do Firebase, then database. We can just store this inside of a variable and then make a reference to it, just to save a few characters. So I'm going to copy all of this, I'm going to copy and then paste it right here. And now Firebase, I'm going to call it Firebase and then DB. So, of course, it's Firebase database. Then, of course, much shorter. Okay, so we know we have the database, the Firebase database, the reference, and the set. And of course, I'm going to just check that this is working. So I'm going to say 2. I'm going to save it and go back to right here to Firebase. It's going to take a second. So we get it works too. So that is working. So now, if you notice, right here, whenever we set something, and we're going to be talking about reference in a minute, whenever we use this method set, this set is going to grab whatever is that you're passing, and it's going to store it. Right now we are passing a string, so it's just going and storing a string. It doesn't matter if it's an object or it's a value, whatever. It's just going to go and it's going to store this. So when, of course, in real life, we're going to be doing more than just storing a string. So we're going to be using objects. So I'm just going to delete this for now, and I'm going to be passing an object. So I'm going to write some object notation, and I'm going to say, I want to enter a new user, and it's going to be the name of Francis, whatever. You can choose whatever name you want. Then last name is going to be equal to Jones. We always have the same example. And then this guy has an age of 20, whatever. So now if I save this and we go back to the to Firebase, it's going to take a second, and then of course we get the age, last name, and name. So everything it's working. It's just storing this. Okay, that's good. That's fine. With the set, we can just store whatever we want. And notice that right now we don't have the it works. So if you pass set just with the reference, with an empty reference, and then the Firebase is going to override your database. The previous state of your database is going to delete everything, and it's going to store whatever it is that you're passing right here. So you need to be careful with this. If you forget to do this, it's going to wipe your database. So, again, be careful with this. Well, so of course, this is just some dumb example. What happens if you want to add more things? Okay, so I'm going to do a comma, I'm going to do car, and instead of just some dumb values, I'm going to be passing, again, just a different object. I'm going to be brand, I'm going to add a brand. It's going to be a Ford, just like my car. And then the color, which is, black, just like my car. I have a shitty car, not a good car. And then I'm going to be adding something else. So right now we are passing an object inside cars, and I'm going to create one that is going to be parents, and this one is going to be an array. So the first name is going to be Mario, and the second name Martha, just like that. So we are passing an array, really, really simple. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go back to Firebase. Okay, so we have the updated state of this information. So now if we check it, we have car, we have brand, Ford, and then we have parents. So one weird thing, notice that parents, we passed an array, but this is not an array. It has a key value pair, the 0, and then, the value, key 1, and then the value. And this is because Firebase does not support arrays. I told you, works a little bit different, but we will get to that. You cannot store arrays. Okay, so you're gonna be talking about this value right here, this reference. So now it's empty. So whenever we pass ref and then empty, it's equal to the root directory. That's why whenever we pass this, it's going to do it inside the root directory. It's going to delete everything else and add whatever you're passing. So again, be careful. So what happens if I want to change? I want to change the last name. What happens? Just the last name. I don't want to update everything else. I just want to make a reference to the last name and just change Joan. I made a mistake. There's a missing S. I want to change Jones to, I don't know, Richardson or something like that. Okay. So I'm going to delete all of this. We are not going to need it right now. And I'm going to say I want to enter the database and change something to Richardson. Something like that. Right. Okay. So now this ref, I can use it to point the value I want to change, the key I want to change. In this case, we want to change the one that says last name. So I'm going to make a reference to last name. I'm going to save it. It's going to run the script right here. And then, of course, we're going to be updating last name to Richardson. So it's going to go with that reference, point this one, and just change the value of this one. All right. So ref, it's really, really important for us. Okay, what else? Let's say that I want to change the brand. Okay, so I need to access car and then access brand. All right, so, okay. So first, I'm going to say car. Okay, that's the first key. And then I need to access brand. So with Firebase, what we do, we use the /. So I'm going to say /. I'm going to point it to brand. And this is going to enter car, enter brand, and change the brand. It's going to change it to Chevy or whatever. I'm going to save it. Let's see if this is working. And it's going to be entering car, entering brand, and just change the Chevy. Again, so if you want to point inside of an object, just like car, you need to use the /. That's the way we access this. Okay, so, what happens if I want to add a new property inside the root? Because if we passed just an empty ref, we will wipe everything else. If I do something like this, let me delete this and delete Chevy. I'm going to say something like skills, and we have an array, maybe that's good, and I have 2 skills, maybe talking and walking. These are not skills, but whatever, walking. Just like that. If I do this, it's going to go to the database with an empty ref, and it's going to delete all the previous information, and it's going to just add the skills. So now the database is going to be equal to skills, and that's the only thing that we're going to get. So how do I do to add this skills into the into this state? What we already have. So what we do, we pass again a reference. So I'm going to say skills. And now Firebase is going to know that we don't have a skills key, so it's going to create for us and set this value equal to whatever we are passing right here. So I'm going to save it, and let's see what happens. It's going to be updating it, and we have skills, and inside we have skills, and then talking and walking. I made a mistake right here. We should be doing something like this, for example, just passing an array, whatever. Let's try it again. And okay, I'm going to delete this one. We don't need it. Good. Okay, so we have skills. It's going to be equal to not an array, but this is kind of the array way of Firebase. So, okay, that's good. Now, whenever you use this, pretty much the whole time, we just need a confirmation just to know that, Firebase, when connected to Firebase and added whatever it is that you want to add. So again, we're going to be using promises. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to be adding a new key that is going to be equal to eyes. And inside the set, I'm going to say that the eyes of this user are brown, whatever, doesn't matter. So how do we get a confirmation after this is completed that, everything was saved correctly? Again, we're going to be using promises. So I'm going to say then, open and close, and inside here for now, we are not going to use anything because it's not going to return anything, but I'm going to do a console log and data saved, whatever. Now, if something goes wrong, what we use catch. Again, we are using promises, so we use catch. Now, the catch, if something goes wrong, is going to give you back an error message. So I'm going to say E, I'm going to catch that E for error message, and then I'm going to console log that E, if this operation fails. So I'm going to save it. Right here is going to be adding that key, eyes brown, and if we go to the application and we inspect this, I'm going to go to console, and we have data saved. So everything is working. It's just storing everything, and we have the console log. So it's going to this scenario. Now I'm going to go back to the Firebase. I'm going to go back to rules, and I'm going to be changing this to false, so we can force an error. If we do false, we cannot write things inside the database. I'm going to say publish. Okay. Now, if I change it to green, whatever, I save it and go back, we're going to get an error, permission denied. So, that is the way you can catch the success and the error using just promises. Good. So I'm going to go back and change it the way it was to true, and then true, and then publish. So, really simple. This is really straightforward. We just use ref and we use set to store whatever is that we want to store. So the next thing is going to be deleting data and updating data. And now, if you're wondering, you might be wondering, dude, we're just adding everything inside the root. So, we don't have an object, we don't have keys, we are just storing everything inside the root. But don't worry, just like Mongo, we're gonna get there, okay? We're gonna get there, don't worry. We're gonna get there in the next few sections. So let's go to the next one and let's learn how to delete and how to update this data.